place on earth.
First Detroit was Murder City, then Atlanta, now Miami.
Well, in 1976, we investigated 104 murders.
The first 7 months of 1979 have been called the bloodiest in South Florida's history.
There were 573 total homicides in 1980.
1981 will go down as another record year for killings around Greater Miami.
I think we're probably going to see in excess of 600 homicides by the end of the year.
As South Florida's drug trade prospers, Dade's homicide rate will continue to climb.
Crime in Miami is up and tourism is down.
Despite the gloom and doom that people are forecasting, we are predicting that we will have more foreign arrivals here in the greater Miami area by the end of the summer than we did last year, which was our banner year.
For Fidel Castro, it was tantamount to an act of genocide. With one fell swoop, he rid Cuba of thousands and thousands of undesirables. He emptied his prisons. He cleared the bums off the streets of Havana. Murderers, thieves, perverts, prostitutes, the retarded, crippled, the winos, all were rounded up, sent to Mario Harbor, and put aboard boats bound for Miami.
Fidel Castro himself publicly stated, "I have flushed the toilets of Cuba on the United States." He bragged about it.
One boat left Mariel for Key West every 5 minutes. They came unhindered, night and day.
It became commonplace in South Florida. Shots are fired, people are killed, and much of the time the killers are people who came over from Cuba in the boat lift of 1980.
Consequently, our homicide rate doubled that year.
It'd be like if an invading army was dropped in here to rape, pillage, and burn in our town. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Aggravated assaults, rapes, robberies.
In no time at all, we had bodies on the floor, we had them stacked up. It was a disgrace.
There have been so many murders throughout Greater Miami lately that a special refrigerated truck is now being used by the Dade Medical Examiner's office to store all the bodies.
They had arranged to rent or borrow it from Burger King, whose headquarters is down here.
And I was very upset.
We have been invaded by aliens from outer space. These guys are spaced out.
Nobody seemed to be concerned about what was happening in the streets of Miami, so I opened my mouth.
They're psychologically totally not even human. They're animals, not even animals. That's an insult to the animal kingdom.
There was no law and order whatsoever.
We all carrying guns. My wife carry guns. My two sons are carrying guns. You see that I have a shotgun loaded in my house, and we're gonna shoot someone.
I certainly never traveled anywhere in Dade County without being armed. There's no question about that.
I always had a gun. I wouldn't sleep well without one, especially in the Miami of that time.
Edna Buchanan on national television saying she wears 2 guns and everybody has to wear a gun.
Merritt Steerheim, who was then the county manager, and all the commissioners were furious, so I was persona non grata for a while.
Miami was literally being torn apart at the seams.
But police help won't come soon because of a manpower shortage in the department. Federal agencies readily admit they are crippled by lack of manpower, money, and resources.
The City of Miami Police Department went on a blind hiring frenzy.
It's hoped more police on the streets will help to reverse this record-setting trend.
And they used to have standards. You couldn't ever have used drugs if you wanted to be a policeman. So they reduced it to you couldn't have used drugs in the last 10 years, and that didn't work. So they said, well, you couldn't have used drugs in the last 5 years. They still couldn't recruit enough. So they said you couldn't have used drugs in the last 2 years, and finally it got to a point where if you're not under the influence of drugs at the moment, you're hired.
That resulted in the largest police corruption crisis since the Serpico days up in New York.
And the entire academy class from that year later on went to jail or died.
This makes a total of 3 Miami officers arrested over the weekend.
Today's arrest came as 7 other Miami officers went on trial accused of ripping off other cocaine dealers and for dealing drugs themselves.
The so-called cocaine cops have been charged with conspiracy, drug trafficking, and racketeering.
The tally shocking. 40 current or former Miami police officers arrested or suspended in the last 2 years, 16 suspended in just the last 2 weeks. And it is not over. At least 30 more Miami cops will be suspended.
The rule of law completely broke down in South Florida.
We might as well just not even come to work and just give the streets up.
We truly are committed, and we are going to gain control of these streets once again.
The criminal justice system is not working now, and I suggest a revisit of the whole idea.
CENTAC 26 went fully operational in December of '81.
There were 25 previous CENTAC organizations in different cities in the United States.
CENTAC stands for Central Tactical Unit.
Our primary goal was to couple the homicide investigations with drug investigations.
They had good connections with the DEA,
with the FBI.
We were dealing with a kind of criminal with whom we had not dealt before. And so my mandate to my people was very simple. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures.
I mean, you would use whatever method you could to take someone out of the picture or off the street.
We're going to get rid of them either by putting them in jail or we're going to kill them.
It was a unit that was meant to be more proactive than reactive.
It was just a different way of doing police work, and it was called for at the time because of the nature of the criminal, with both the Colombians and the Cuban criminals who came from Morel.
Miami seems to have become paradise lost.
In the fall-winter of 1981, the article Paradise Lost came out in Time magazine.
Time magazine crushed Miami.
The 9-page article inside focused primarily on Miami as the troubled center of drugs, crime, and refugees.
The politicians in Miami-Dade County and Miami went crazy when they saw that.
That's the #1 question that's asked. Is it safe to come to Miami Beach?
And what do you tell them?
And again, I'm saying to them, unless you're coming down here to traffic in drugs, we are as safe here as you would be anywhere else in the world, including your own hometown.
We were torn between two worlds, fun and sun capital, murder capital.
That was the gist of that article, that the criminals were winning and we were losing.